My family was collapsing. I found Mom's Carefree Pill formula, exposed Mr. Myers' lies, and saved the company with a huge deal from Justin Hunt. I even offered the pill to Ian Smith's nephew, but he refused. Justin helped me, and I gave him a massive discount. Then I asked him for anything in return, and he said yes. Now what do I ask for? Information about my parents? Custody of Pete? And can I trust him? Will you give me whatever I ask for? I asked Justin. Yes, he said instantly. I took a breath, willing myself to say what I wanted here to say. I want your... The words stuck in my throat. No, not here, not now. Justin grew impatient. Go on. I exhaled. Your forgiveness, I said finally. Justin hesitated. Then after a long pause, he spoke. I can try. I nodded. That's enough for now. His lips curved into the faintest smirk. For now. With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Before I could find Melissa, I saw Jon Myers and his assistant, Tina, walking toward me. Miss Smith, what a delight to see you, Tina's voice rang out, loud and deliberately cheerful. We've been looking everywhere for you. Guess what? Something amazing is about to happen to you. Her excitement was forced, exaggerated, and I immediately knew that whatever she was about to say wasn't in my best interest. Jon Myers stood beside her. Nora, your mother and I were close friends, he said. Such a shame she left. But now that you're here, I'd be honored to guide you in her place. He tilted his head slightly. I hear you're a surgeon. Tell me, have you ever considered traditional medicine? I folded my arms across my chest. I didn't respond. Not yet. Tina leaned in. Miss Smith, are you so stunned you've lost your words? She spoke, flashing another dazzling, insincere smile. Mr. Myers is offering to take you on as his student. This is a huge deal. Go on, acknowledge him as your teacher. Right here, right now. Her voice grabbed the attention of a few people around us. I could sense that they were expecting me to accept. Instead, I said, I'll pass. Murmurs surrounded the room. Tina's confident grin faltered for just a second, but she recovered quickly. Straightening, she adjusted her tone. Sharper now. Perhaps you're not familiar with the traditional medicine scene here, she said coolly. Let me enlighten you. In New York, there are only 3 true masters. Mr. Myers, Dr. Lincoln, and Dr. Jenkins. All 3 studied under the legendary Dr. Sylvester Zabe. And guess what? Dr. Zabe hasn't taken a student in years. So, if you want to learn from the best, Mr. Myers is your only option. Jon nodded, playing along effortlessly. It's true, he said smoothly. I was fortunate to study under Dr. Zabe for a few years. We all were. A voice from the side interrupted. Dr. Lincoln, who had been standing nearby, stepped forward. His words were quieter but carried weight. Though I heard Dr. Zabe took on a new student a few years ago, he mused, taught them everything he knew, but who it is, no one knows. The murmurs started again. Tina, choosing to ignore the distraction, pressed on. So, Miss Smith, what do you say? She urged. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. People beg for this chance. Don't throw it away. My voice remained calm. No, thank you. I must respectfully decline. Silence. The crowd gasped. Jon's carefully maintained smile flickered while Tina's patience finally snapped. You're turning this down? She hissed. Do you even know what you're passing up? This is... Before she could finish, someone's phone started ringing loudly. Joel, who was standing amidst the crowd, picked up his phone. His face shifted instantly. What? No, hold on. I'm coming. His voice was urgent, panicked. He hung up and turned toward Jon. Mr. Myers, please, it's my uncle. He's dying. You have to come. You have to help. Jon nods without hesitation. Of course. Let's go. His tone is serious. Without another word, they move quickly away from the crowd and out of the conference hall. Tina shoots me one final glare before turning on her heel and following after them. Soon after the conference ended, we came home along with Sheena. Everyone sat in the living room. I stood near the doorway, watching as Simon spoke into the phone. Cheryl says they've already produced 50 pills based on the formula you gave her. His voice was almost breathless with disbelief. I can't believe it works. We really can mass-produce the Carefree pills. The call ended. Melissa's voice was soft and thoughtful. It seems Yvette did improve the formula after all. And now Nora's brought it back to us. She paused, glancing at Sheena. Even though Yvette left, this proves she never stopped caring for her family. Don't you agree, Sheena? Silence. Sheena didn't answer. Simon turned his attention back to me. Nora, are you really not going to study under Jon? I shook my head. No, I'm not. Simon hesitated. I know it's because Jon was making things difficult for us that you... No, it's not that, I interrupted. I'm just not interested in learning traditional medicine from him. Sheena, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke, frowning. What are you interested in then? I didn't answer. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Melissa stood and moved toward the kitchen, her hands busying themselves with the dishes. Then, without looking up, she spoke gently. Nora, would you like to help me in the kitchen? I nodded, stepping in beside her. We worked in silence for a moment. But then... Melissa, who is Ian Smith? She froze. But then she took a deep breath and spoke. Have you heard of the Smiths of New York? I shook my head. No, I don't think so. The Smiths and the Hunts. They were at war for years. Both families were powerhouses, but the Smith patriarch, he was something else. Brilliant. Ruthless. She turned fully to face me now. Your mother was once engaged to Ian Smith. I nodded as Melissa continued. For a while. When I first heard your last name, I thought maybe she was pregnant with Ian's child, but no. Different Smith. Melissa continued. Anyway, Ian Smith was unstoppable. Under his leadership, the Smiths nearly surpassed the Hunts. But then, your mother disappeared. She paused, and he fell. Hard. I stood frozen. It gave the Hunts a chance to catch up, she went on. For a while, the families were neck and neck, but then... She stopped, her gaze locking onto mine. Then Justin Hunt took over, and the Smiths crumbled. And Ian? I asked slowly. Melissa shook her head. He retired, left everything to his nephew. Joel Smith, I murmured. Melissa nodded. Joel took over, she said, her voice quiet. But Ian, he never moved on, never got married. And just like that, another layer of my mother's past unraveled before me. Inside Smith Mansion, Ian Smith lay motionless on a large grey bed, his breathing shallow, his face pale. Joel stood at the doorway, anxious. How is my uncle? Jon Myers, standing near the bed, answered without looking at Joel. His body is failing. His will to live is... gone. A heavy silence fell over the room. Then Jon spoke again. We've done all we can. If he won't fight, then it's time to prepare for goodbyes. Joel's jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists at his sides. There has to be another way, he said, desperate. Jon hesitated, choosing his words carefully. There may be one, he finally admitted. Joel's head snapped up. What is it? Not what. Who? Doctor. Sylvester Zab. Joel didn't hesitate. I'll have my people bring him immediately. But Jon raised a hand, stopping him. He's old, very old, and nearly bedridden himself, he explained. Then after a pause, but I've heard rumors. Joel stiffened. Before he vanished from the public eye, he took in a student. Someone who learned everything. Joel's voice was tense, wary. Who? Jon exhaled, shaking his head. No one knows. Joel's gaze drifted back to Ian's still form. I can keep his vitals stable, but he needs to choose to live, or you need to find Zabi's successor. Joel's expression hardened with resolution. Then keep him alive until I do. Jon nodded, retrieving a silver needle from his case. Moving with precision, he carefully pierced Ian's acupuncture points, then crushed a small pill between his fingers, slipping it into Ian's mouth. Then... The steady beep of the monitor cut through the silence. Ian's heartbeat stabilized. Jon stepped back. He'll wake up by tomorrow, he said. Joel met his gaze. Thank you, Mr. Myers. My butler will see you out. Jon's car pulled away from the massive iron gates of the Smith mansion. Inside the vehicle, Tina finally spoke. Sir, Ian Smith doesn't want to live. How can we possibly keep him alive? Jon didn't respond immediately. Instead, he opened his palm. Inside, resting in his hand, a half pill. Tina sucked in a sharp breath. That's... Jon nodded before she could finish. The Carefree Pill. His voice was quiet. Tina's eyes widened. But that pill is worth a fortune, she whispered. Jon slowly closed his hand into a fist. Have someone buy them, he ordered, quietly. Tina gave a small nod. The Andersons won this round, he admitted. But if we don't make a move, they'll rise above us. Don't worry, Tina assured him. I'll handle it. Nora Smith and the Andersons will be crushed. Back home, Grandma and Melissa led me into the study after dinner. Mrs. Anderson's eyes, now fully healed, scanned my face with kindness and curiosity. Cherry must be 8 now, she said gently. It's not good for her to stay home all the time. Aren't you going to send her to school? I've thought about it. Originally, my trip to New York was meant to be temporary. A short stay, a brief visit to take my son. But now, everything has changed. And whether I'd planned for it or not, staying seemed inevitable. I met Melissa's gaze. Which is the best school nearby? The best around here is Golden Sunshine School. Grandma frowned. It's hard to get in, though. I tilted my head slightly. Why? It's the best in New York. The students come from elite, wealthy, or powerful families. Even Cheryl and Logan weren't accepted when they were kids. I nodded slowly. What do they look for? Melissa's expression turned thoughtful. Parents must either be exceptionally talented or very wealthy. They evaluate the family's status as much as the child's ability. I narrowed my eyes. What qualifies as a special talent? Melissa gave a small shrug. Major contributions to society or... She hesitated, then added, holding a top-class black card. I knew what that meant. An unlimited credit card. The kind of wealth that wasn't just money. It was power, influence. Only a select few in the world possessed one. The mysterious Imperial League controlled them. Tycoons, power players, politicians. Rumors suggest that Justin Hunt has one, Melissa added, which is why he commands such respect. Then, a sharp ringtone cut through the moment. My phone. I glanced down at the screen. A name flashed across it. My brows lifted slightly. Why is he calling me? There's hidden plans, Ian Smith's fading life, and Justin's veiled promises. Cherry's future hung in the balance, the elite Golden Sunshine School a distant goal. But then, the phone rang. He was calling. Why? What new secrets would surface, and what would I lose to protect my own?